And we're live.
All right. One day, kind of the start of the new week, but kind of feels like we already started the week last night where we had Georgia Pryor and Peter Ellis on. And I'm still just super impressed with the way that they presented themselves. So if anyone is watching this and hasn't had a chance to watch that one, and you're interested in some impressive people, in addition to being impressive athletes out of Oceania region this year, I would highly recommend giving that one a listen. Obviously, Patrick and I have a huge interest in CrossFit in general and in the up and coming athletes, but I was really motivated to learn more about them and to see them both compete after the show last night. And T-Bird was there and Julian was there. Yeah, we were just talking about how impressive those athletes from Australia were. Sarah.
Yeah, I'm back rewatching those episodes for clips, and it's just like, especially Peter. Peter was on a little bit more, but you sent me some timestamps. But I'm so impressed with his mindset, and his vision. It's hard to imagine he's a 22-year-old. He's already talking about stuff that veterans don't even talk about yet.
Yeah, and speaking of veterans, not the. Well, I thought he was here. Why is it just a black box?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to get these AirPods connected.
Are you making a political statement, Kristof?
No, I would never do that.
You and me both. Probably a wise move. Ooh, I like the flannel.
How are you guys? How you guys doing?
Good.
Oh, this one. Oh, thank you. This is straight off of a Walmart shelf. Bought it like 2 years ago, I think. I actually got two for $30.
Yeah, only Kristof could pull off flannel in June.
Oh, guys, it is like 11 degrees Celsius here in Sweden, so I do need it.
Oh,
yeah, you are now back in Sweden for games training?
Yeah, that is correct.
But you've been you've been on the road a little bit. This has been a big year for you guys, moving, shifting to the team environment. Gabi's down in Hungary full-time. You're up in Sweden, training. So you've been on the go this year.
I have. I've been on the go for 10 years now, but
true.
Yes, true. This year more than ever.
Well, I'm really happy that you said that, because if someone was just looking at the lineup of guests that we have on the show, you're the only individual guest that we have on the show who's not competing as an individual at the CrossFit Games during this 2-week stretch. But to me, I was maybe selfishly, I was really looking forward to this conversation, because you and I have had some good conversations in the past. We had a podcast with Sevan a few years ago now, but you don't do a lot of public speaking or podcasts type settings, but you've been around and you've seen a lot.
Makes me nervous, the public setting.
No, it's just an intimate setting. It's just a couple of guys having a coffee.
I don't know, everyone has different approaches to this thing, and I've known you guys for many years now. We cross paths at mostly CrossFit related events, of course. So it is a pleasure to be on. It's like just to say something for the sake of saying it is maybe not. I'm not saying others do. It's just talk is cheap and action speaks louder. So just try to put in the work and then let that talk for itself, I guess.
And I feel like at any point, by the way, you can always tell me I'm wrong, but I feel like you and Gabi adapted that mentality during COVID and have kind of been running with that mentality for the last 4 years. And it's, been quite successful for both of you doing that.
I mean, yeah. Now you say that, maybe. I mean, when you start out, I guess, in the space, and I'm not talking again negatively about anyone. It's just like maybe how we do it or how I do it is it is very nice to get attention. It's amazing. But then on the other hand, it's not that it's necessarily a distraction, but oftentimes I feel like in podcasts there is not much that has been said. It's just like chatting, which is also cool. And I try to listen to entertaining stuff as well, like the Joe Rogan podcast and other ones as well, I guess. But it's also, I guess, when we're away from the gym, we try to step away from the gym and not think about CrossFit constantly, not talk about CrossFit constantly. So it is a very, very important part of our life, but try to rather look at it as business and home life, and then separating the two, I guess.
Well, it's a great perspective to have. It's clearly something that we've seen become a reality for athletes in this sport, that there seems to be a disproportionate amount of balance with people investing so heavily in this, oftentimes at a young age, and then having these burnouts of a variety of different, types. And, you mentioned it right off the bat. You've been around this sport for at least a decade now. So you've seen a lot of this, and you've watched a lot of it from kind of a unique perspective. You've been a coach to athletes at the highest level. You've competed at high level competitions. You've been all around Europe. You've seen CrossFit in the United States. And after 10 years of doing it, you have this, pretty good understanding that if that becomes everything, that it's, what happens when it goes away. And it feels like you guys have built up a life outside the gym.
And I think that is very important. That is something that we learned over the last few years. I think when you start out CrossFit, it happens with everyone. Maybe not nowadays, I don't know, because there's a lot of content out there. But at least when I started, CrossFit is all consuming. And when you're not in the gym, you're thinking about CrossFit. And when you're not thinking about, you're watching something on YouTube. And I have watched the Froning documentaries probably just as many times as anyone else, and then been down the behind the game scene stuff and all that. But eventually, I think you got to filter out what you let come your way, and really see what is actually providing value to you, either as a business owner in the space or as an athlete in the space, or of course just as a consumer. Even then, there is so many avenues of just getting media, and you got to filter out what is actually entertaining and maybe educational, and maybe doesn't piss you off either.
Fair enough.
Nice way to say it, and everyone probably is thinking of somebody or something if they're hand in the CrossFit world that might fit one of those categories. Maybe
I wasn't implying, but if you're talking about Hiller, for sure, he's someone I would not want to pay attention to. Yeah.
But the nice thing is there's something for everyone. So if you want to know what's going on in the CrossFit world, you have a lot of options out there, and quite frankly, there's a lot of, this has been my motivation for a long time, is there are a lot of athletes that commit a lot to just have the chance to be good at this sport. And now there's more opportunities for more of those athletes to have their stories told a little bit. And that's, I think, changed a lot in the last 10 years.
It's just an interesting one, right? Because I think it's a narrative that a lot of people and brands and competitions run with, that telling the athlete's story. Can you really tell an athlete's story in like a 30-minute podcast? Not implying, I'm not talking about you guys per se, but it's just like, what is storytelling of an athlete? And does just speaking to an athlete's accomplishment or giving highlight at a competition, does that really tell the story? I think everyone has a deeper story, and I'm just repeating myself, that is worth to be told. My main thing is that when it comes to the selection athletes whose stories are getting told are not necessarily the right ones, I think, in the space.
It's funny you bring that up, because obviously we know Josie pretty well, and Josie, when he started working with Gabi, he announced he was working on a documentary about Gabi. So I give him a lot of shit. I'm like, hey, when's the documentary? When the documentary coming out? And he keeps on telling me, he's like, the story's not over yet. It's like, it'd be unfair if he just shot 1 year of Gabi, competing and said, okay, this is her documentary. And Josie, he I kid him a lot, but at the same time, it's like, you don't hear many people, especially when it comes to documentaries, say stuff like that. It's like, usually they give a date, but he's like, there's no end date because her story's still being told. And I think it's really cool that you're following that, from a different aspect.
That is part of it for sure. The other one that needs to be talked about in that regard, for example, is funding.
Yeah.
Yes, it is being told, and finally for this year we secured a funding for that can be consistently, followed up and followed along. But in previous years when we tried it, it's gone as far because that is as much money we could put into the whole thing. Being a full-time athlete, even at Gabi's level, is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Especially with Madison, Texas. But so it's something that people don't often talk about. The comparison sheet at the end of the CrossFit Games, who made what, and at the end of the year, there's a lot of zeros, but there's a lot of taxes to be paid. For example, one expense, obviously. But now I'm carried away a little bit. What I'm trying to say is that it's Josie is a one-man camera crew and editor and all that, and obviously he's putting all of what he has into it, but these things cost a lot of money, and then sometimes you have to evaluate of where you put that funding in terms of like, do I value, do I want to get better at competition? I'm going to spend money on recovery, on travel, this and that, or do I try to get more media out of the whole thing?
Yeah.
It's something that I think about a lot. Kristof, that I go to a lot of CrossFit competitions. I see a lot of athletes competing there. I also watch a lot of disc golf, and I see a ton of athletes that are on the tour, on the grind, competing at these competitions every week. They're living out of their cars. They're all like, 4 guys in a Airbnb, and then they just go to the next stop, And it's in both of those sports, it's there's like kind of a window of time where you can like just be living kind of tournament to tournament, paycheck to paycheck, year to year, but that window doesn't last forever. Okay, maybe. I was like,
yeah.
I think you asked when you said disc golf.
No, it's not about disc golf. I think it's worth to take a bird's eye view of the CrossFit bubble as well every once in a while and realize how small it is and how small the potential is. And I would be foolish if I would say there is none, and I would be foolish if I would try to compare it to the NFL or NBA, or same as I would be foolish if I would try to compare it to disc golf, because I'm assuming there's even less money in there than CrossFit.
You might be surprised, actually. It's changed in the last couple of years.
Look, there's no other sport like CrossFit where an athlete is also their own social media manager, and they're responsible for creating content, for booking their own flights, for making sure that their hotel is booked for the CrossFit Games, putting money aside for those big events. People think that you qualify to the CrossFit Games and then it's like, you just put your feet up, you worry about training. That shit costs a lot of money, especially for us coming from Europe, not even talking about Oceania. And even I'm sure in the States, you guys' domestic flights cost just as much as, I don't know, it's crazy. Brian, you've been to Europe a bunch of times now. You see that these city hoppers and these country hoppers you can find some good flights for relatively reasonable price. But what I'm trying to say is that it is, at the moment, to be an athlete at the top level, it's almost like the Matt Fraser story that is in everyone's head, that if you just work super, super hard, you dominate the sport, then you can put your feet up and you don't have to do a thing for the rest of your life. For 99.9%, this isn't a reality.
And, knowing that, you have stayed in the fight for a long time.
Yeah.
When I first met you, it was back in, I think it was at 2018 CrossFit Games. Facundo introduced us. And the next couple of years, I saw you on the sanctional circuit, and you were competing, and you were like not that far off from, earning one of the games qualifying spots at a couple sanctionals that you showed up for. And here we are 6-7 years after that, and you're still competing at a high level. So despite how difficult that is, you have found a way to make it work.
You mean financially?
Yeah, well, just in your life in general.
I mean, I do wholeheartedly love CrossFit. I believe it has given me everything that I hoped and I couldn't even comprehend I hoped for before. I mean, all my most meaningful, almost beside my family and some childhood friends, my most meaningful relationships come from this space. I mean, I wouldn't have known Gabi if I wouldn't have done CrossFit. I'm eternally grateful, and it is honestly, sometimes I forget, but I should pinch myself more often that I get to do this. And it's easy to put our worth to a number on the leaderboard or how many games appearances and this and that. Obviously, I have none so far. But at the end of the day, I think if we're zooming out a little bit of it, CrossFit can provide a really, for lack of better words, a magical life. And if you surround yourself with the right people, you get to know so many of them in this global sport. You can really live a meaningful life, whether an athlete, a coach, or a business owner within the space.
And in the last couple of years, you've kind of taken on all of those roles to some extent or another. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I guess, maybe a glorified coach is a bit too much. It's just like, especially when you're at the games, I mean, what you really need is someone to get you a bottle of water or make you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and then obviously some organizing going on and this and that. I believe that experience is something that you can't buy, but on the other hand, you should constantly educate yourself as well, because there's a lot of new studies come out. You see other athletes as well. You try to broaden your scope by looking out of the space. But to say that I'm Laura's and Gabi's coach is a stretch. I am more of a support personnel, and it's been an honor, obviously, to be with them at all these big competition. It's a lot of fun, and yeah, like when you're in the space, all of a sudden, you cannot just be an athlete or just a coach. There are so many responsibilities that fall on your shoulder, especially when you're trying to manage CrossFit Games and top contender athletes.
You say that, you don't feel like you're that much of a coach to them, but we've been able to see them, especially at Dubai this past year. Would you say that it's kind of the same way, where they kind of supporting you in the same way that you support them, like at other competitions?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, but does that make? But then you kind of downplay like your importance. But then, at Dubai, for instance, the shoes were, shoe was on the other side, so you're on that side and you see him up there, and I'm sure that means a lot to you, seeing them there and helping you out. Does that change your perspective on what, how important your role that you did in the past actually meant to them?
Yeah, I mean, now that you put it into this perspective, I guess so. I mean, you really want someone at a competition that you can trust, and you know that that person is there for you. And I guess I'm in a lucky enough position that I could be that person for the girls for a couple of years now. And obviously that's a bit conflicting now that we're going to the games and I'll be competing and they'll be competing, and it's going to be a bit different than previous years, but hopefully it will work. We made it work at semifinals, and obviously I have commitments to the team, and they are my number one commitment. Right. So we made sure that we put in things into place that they can compete at the highest level, and so was I with the team.
It's we've been having these conversations a little bit this past couple of weeks with a few different athletes that, a lot of them have a coach that writes the programming for them, but then they train and their coach isn't there. But there's somebody that's there that's with them every day, that even though that's not the person that's writing their programming, it's an important role for some of these athletes to have, just the accountability, even if it's someone that's training with you, making sure you're doing that extra set, reminding you about maybe a positional thing. And that, I think, in the gym every day, consistency builds the trust that you're kind of referring to.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
And like you said, at the time when you get to the competition, like having someone that you don't have to think about it, you just trust them. That's like a huge advantage.
I think at the end of the day, the biggest gift a coach can give to an athlete is building an autonomous athlete. You see too many times at a competition, or especially if you're in the warm-up area, that you would be very surprised how many athletes are completely enabled without their coach, to a point as they don't even know how to start warming up for an event. And especially when you want to excel at the CrossFit Games, you want athletes who can not just function but thrive without you because of the tools that you have taught them and given them over the years. So yeah, to your point, I do believe that there's no there's no other sport in the world, maybe now that the technology is expanding and getting better and better, where a programmer can be called a coach. Traditional sports, a coach means that the coach is waiting for you at the gym when you arrive. He or she is present at your session, and at the end of the day, you leave and he leaves. I do believe that the most impact on an athlete's life can be made if you are present at most training sessions. That's the reason why the girls are now out at Krypton training for the CrossFit Games under Ben's watchful eyes every single session.
Yeah, it's extremely well said. Did you grow up playing sports in Hungary?
Yeah, I did play sports. We're very lucky that both of our parents are PE teachers, so we tried out a variety of sports: badminton, basketball, rock climbing, cycling, kayak, canoe, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but nothing at a professional level.
No, but experienced that reality. Go into whatever the sport is, and the coach is there waiting for you, and they put you through the workout or the practice or whatever it is, the drills. And also, I think a lot of people who've had that kind of exposure to a variety of different sports growing up, it translates well into what CrossFit demands, which is such a different variety of skills.
Yeah.
We have a really great supporter here, Lynn. She wanted you to know this. Don't forget that you have fans all over the world who get inspired by what you do in your different roles. She's talking to you, Kristof.
Thank you, Lynn. That's very kind of you.
And basically, she wanted to say is you're pretty awesome.
Thank you. I don't know about that. Yeah.
Well, so this season, I'm sure everyone knows that you've decided to compete on a team. It's a pretty seriously good team on paper.
Very good.
What
was the origins of getting onto this team this year?
Yeah, before I say anything, that I was a bit pissed at you, Brian, because although you were right that we took second place at semifinals, you put us behind Axel's team, and I took that personal. Might have burned a couple of bridges with that team after that. Yeah.
You did or me?
I did.
Oh shit!
I did.
I don't want to do that. No,
yeah. Oh, sorry, what was the original question? Semifinals.
Even before that, yeah. Did you reach out to those guys? Who was the responsible one for getting the four of you together this year?
I think it was wasn't it almost by accident? Don't you have like Danny Spiegel and Alex Smith to thank for that?
Yeah, originally 2 years ago in Madrid, they were supposed to be on the team with very good memory, BC. 2 years ago in Madrid, it was supposed to be Elliot, Jamie, Alec, and Danny, and then they pulled out, and Elliot reached out to me and Mia, and then we jumped on that team, and we just clicked. It was like one of those that the only time we trained together, it was the day before in the warm-up area. We touched the berm, we did some like whatever synchro stuff, and it just gelled well. It's for me personally, it's hard to reflect on that now because there's a big mindset change, especially now I can say training for the CrossFit Games, but I wasn't sure what I'm gonna do this year before the team was formed, especially after Dubai. Was in a bit of a different headspace that obviously changed now, and it is really the people, like these three individuals, that that I said yes to. It wasn't, it wasn't like a goal specific. It wasn't just to make it to the games, and of course, I don't want to downplay it, but obviously, it's such a vast experience in those three. Obviously, multi-year. Jamie and a podium, that the 6-person team back in the day. Mia has been to the games a couple times. Jamie took third, 2019. So I was quite confident that we can make it to the games, but it was more so the people. This is a big personal sacrifice for all three of us. Everyone is sacrificing something a lot, and for me, being away from Gabi, from Laura, from my dog, family, obviously is huge, and obviously everyone else has theirs. It was really these people that I wanted to go with, and I wanted to embark on this journey on with.
When was that kind of conversation? Was it following Dubai?
Yeah. So since Madrid, LJ and I, and even Mia, we quite frequently talked online, and Elliot helped me a lot with a couple of competitions before, and peaking and all that kind of stuff. And even during Dubai, I think before one of the events, Ella and I were just having breakfast up at the top of the hotel by the pool, which was lovely, right? The view was lovely. And we were talking a bit about the future, and that's where the idea popped into their head. And then shortly after, the idea was then formed of going team.
It's funny that you talked about like where your state of mind in Dubai, because when I talked to Mia and Elliot at Dubai this year, they said the same thing. They were like, we're here at Dubai to compete. We have no idea what the future holds. Like when I was talking to Mia was like, depending on how I do here determines three things. Either I no longer compete in a team, or compete as an individual. And Elliot was kind of in the same way, and we didn't get that too much there, but you just saying that, it just seemed like you're all in the same kind of space. And Dubai kind of like, because you're all gathered there in Dubai, because Jamie was there as well, just helping out. It seemed like it was like meant to be almost.
Yeah, I think so. I think our initial start at Madrid deserved a revamp for the CrossFit Games season, and it was kind of meant to be. Like we do spend a lot of time together, and we want to spend that time together. So it's about the people for all of us, essentially.
Now, it's an interesting group of people because obviously there's a ton of competition experience, but also, Mia is married to Phil, and Phil he's a coach and a programmer, and Elliot has his coaching business, QHP, which is, from everything I can tell, it's a pretty well-run and successful coaching business. And like you said, you've had some experience in the kind of the role of coach as well. So all of you are kind of bringing something to the table in terms of the coaching, programming side of things. How have you guys kind of handled team programming? Who's responsible for that?
Just trying to poke the beehive. I like it. Now, obviously, look, there's a lot of experience amongst all team members, and Phil included as well, as our competition coach. That's his official role. And I go into the details, of course, but I think first and foremost, the most important to recognize here is that everyone's pretty seasoned as an adult. And I think our main strength is actually, when you look at a team, you want to think about, are they strong? Are they fast? Are they good at gymnastics? And our main strength is good communication, I think. And I think that comes with age. So obviously when the team got together, all these roles have been discussed, and we continue to discuss them as well. So we are lucky to have Phil as an in-person coach in the gym at competitions, helping us with the in-person nuances. And then from the QHP side, from Elliot, we're getting great programming, sort of like a structure for the week that we are following.
T-Bird weighing in here, she says she doesn't know much about Mia, but Jamie, Elliot, Kristof are some of her favorites, appear to be great people. Do you want to say something about Mia for those that don't know her as well?
Thank you, T-Bird. That's very nice of you to say. Oh, Mia is fantastic. I mean, talk about a superhero. I mean, Mia is number one as a mom. That, let alone like juggling a family life with, while working towards the goal of winning the CrossFit Games is something that I can't even explain how difficult that is. And obviously, hats off to her. And then obviously, I mean, if you haven't heard of Mia, you should Google CrossFit Girl Snatch maybe or something like that. I mean, she has the biggest. She is incredible. I mean, her strength is not proficiency in weightlifting is remarkable. And then on top of that, you know, she's a multi-year games athlete. So I believe in 2019, was it 2019 when she qualified individual, and then they decided to go team. But out of Cape Town, I don't. You guys
out of Cape Town. I remember the 1 year at Dubai when that was the year she had that awesome that snatch, but that was on the team.
Kilo.
Yeah.
So Mia has been around as an individual and as a CrossFit Games competitor as well. Very, very accomplished athlete, and but athletes might be surprised, and the public might be surprised to see her run this year at the games. I can already say. I mean, if you paid attention to semifinals, you see the improvements she made. And honestly, like, she's such a key person to the team that I can't even say. Well, everyone is, I guess.
Have you ever spent time in Sweden prior to this year?
No, we've been a couple of years back with Gabi. You guys might remember this one. It's called Tingre Tango. It was like a team of two competition. It was more like a showcase thing. I think 2019 we did an event here with Gabi. I think that's about it. No, not much.
And you've, I mean, spent some weeks or months there over the past 6-7 months of this year, and it's very different from Mallorca, Spain, where you guys had been living for a while previously.
Yes.
And you were there during the winter months where there's not a lot of sun. It's dark most of the year. Has it been a tough transition? I mean, it's a big weather change.
You know, for me, I'm fine with it. Like, Jamie is a lizard. She needs the sun. She has like some sun battery, so she needs to be under the sun. I kind of like the cooler temperature. Obviously, going into Texas this year is probably not the best. But look, I mean, it was dark. It was cold here, but the shining bright star in this whole like dark and cold winter here is the gym. I cannot. Like, CrossFit Walleye is, honestly, anyone around the world, please jump on a plane, come visit CrossFit Walleye. It is not just a incredible community, knowledgeable coaches, have all the equipment that you could dream of. It's also the cleanest gym that you've ever been in. I mean, I don't know when was the last time you did a burpee without getting dirt on your knees, you know, in most gyms. But I mean, honestly, like, we actually just had the pleasure of going to their 10-year anniversary party on Friday, and besides the owners giving a speak and the coaches speak and how grateful they are of the members and then running the place and just like being a part of this community, the amount of heartfelt speeches the members gave that evening, it was incredible. Like, it is it is a incredible gym, and we are honored, honestly honored to represent them this season.
Damn, that's high words of praise. Very cool. I was in Sweden last year for the first time. I didn't get a chance to go to Walleye, but man,
it's a bit outside of like Stockholm, so you would have to either jump on a train or on a bus. So it's not as central as Stockholm would be, but honestly, like, Västerås is the city's name. It's a relatively smaller city in that regard, although there are a lot of like big corporations here for some reason, which I don't understand. But the city itself is very lovely, and then the gym for us is just like a breath of fresh air, honestly. Even after so many years of, you know, just like traveling around the world and honestly, like, seeing the best and the worst and everything in between in terms of like facilities and coaching and all that. So
yeah. It's not doesn't fall lightly on my ears to have you speak that highly of CrossFit Walleye. It's very cool. And last year I did get to hang out with Phil. You know, he does a lot of programming for the competitions up there. We were at the Halmstad Throwdown last year. I got actually, we played disc golf together, We helped set up the competition. He's a big golfer, Phil Hesketh.
He is a big golfer. Yeah.
But he also has a few frisbees, so we went to play and got to learn, just know him a little bit. You know how it is. It's nice, like you said, outside of the gym to do something different and get to know the person a little bit more than the athlete or the programmer.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm blown away how popular golf is in a country where they have like maybe 1.5 months of weather when they can play outside. I mean, they love golf over here, and it blows my mind. Like, honestly, like,
yeah, one of
I
his
couldn't be
best,
bothered.
the other good, like, well-known coaches in Sweden, Henrik Wilhelmer and Phil. Anytime they get together, they're gonna play golf.
Yes. Oh man. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's funny. One of the colleges that I shoot photos for here in the middle America, he recruits out of Norway and Sweden golfers, and they do really good. They're usually a top team in the country, but he always gets like these Swedish and Norwegian golfers, especially women, and he brings them over there, and they do amazing here. And it's funny because one of them actually plays professionally. And there was a reunion, and I ran into her, and I asked her what she's doing. She's like, I'm still playing professional. I'm like, in Sweden? She goes, yes. I'm like, how do you do that? She's like, we do a lot of virtual, like they have a lot of indoor golf courses and like, those virtual reality stuff. But when the weather's nice, she's like, I'm out on the course.
I mean, honestly, that's amazing. But just as soon as I hear golf, it puts me to sleep. So, but yeah, they do play here.
Kristof, you guys, obviously you had a pretty smooth run through the qualifying stages to get to the semifinals this year. And then just like, what was the mindset of the team heading into Lyon, into France, before any of the competition had started for the four of you? What were you guys thinking about? What were you focused on?
Yeah, I think that's where maybe we weren't all truly transparent and aligned of what that goal is, going to semifinals. I haven't been to semifinals since 2019, and that was the only year I've been. So I was just stoked to be back a little bit. I think it is a weird one, right? Because me talking personally, without qualifying ever to the CrossFit Games, I was kind of sure that we will make it to the CrossFit Games. So it was like a weird contradicting feeling within as well. And I think the number one takeaway for us was that there was a lot of teams that practiced the workouts. And we really came into the weekend with very, very minimal practice of the actual semifinal workouts, and still focusing on the big picture, which is excelling at the games. So our result at semifinals was a reflection of where our training was at that given moment in the season. And I can confidently say that if you would put us up against those teams, it's a bold statement, I guess. If you would put us up against those teams now, you would get a drastically different result. So it was more of sort of ticking a box and carrying on with the training that we were doing at that point.
And for people that it was difficult to watch the team competition this year. The first 3 events were on the first day. There was just the podcast viewing platform for it. So not the best. There was something to watch, but it was difficult. The second workout was the lifting workout. There's so much going on. The third workout was the running workout. You're outside for most of it. So like a lot of this day of competition happens. It's an incredibly important day for every athlete in the team division. But the viewing audience, unless you were there on site, you didn't really get a chance to appreciate the fullness of that day. And, a lot of talk has been on the individual side. Well, on Sunday, they had 3 workouts, half their competition. But for the teams, it was even a more critical day, 60% of the competition, and it was day number 1.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it was a bit like, it would have been cool to compete 3 days, I guess. I don't know. I couldn't do it because of scheduling or whatever, moving equipment around, which I understand. But yes, Saturday or whatever, Friday was a big day for us. It's a shame that there was no online proper viewing experience at those days.
So the first workout, we're just gonna kind of walk through the workouts, get your perspective from your team, from the competition in general. I actually thought this would be a decent workout for you guys, because this is the workout where you're holding the worm, right? And then everyone's got to cycle through these things. And it's, to me, from the outside perspective, it felt like a workout where you could really lean on some different strengths of athletes. So if you had a couple athletes that were really good at rope climbs or handstand push-ups or the bike, even if it wasn't everyone, that those kind of teams with different skill sets would excel. I thought that your team would fit that mold, but you had actually, I would say, below average finish.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't want to give too much away because I don't know who's watching. But I can say that one thing that we didn't do correctly is, so this is the thing. If we would have practiced that workout, we would have had a very different strategy going into it. So we didn't get the strategy right for this one. And let's just call it, we underestimated the 150 calories on the echo bike at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's in the context of the semifinal, you pay the price a little bit with a finish that's maybe not as reflective of your score, but in the context of the CrossFit Games, it's more likely that you'll have less exposure to the workouts, and therefore coming in with a little bit less of a rehearsal can actually be advantageous.
Yeah, I think so. I think that workout especially was a great learning opportunity and a little bit of a wake-up call for the team as well to maybe closer examine a workout, even regardless if we could practice it or we couldn't practice it.
So learn from the first one. Still a decent finish, 8th place against maybe you just want to say something like the teams in Europe, like there are a lot of really good teams there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the funny thing is that there is only one team that qualified to CrossFit Games who doesn't wear a Scandinavian flag. And even that team is 3 Swedes and 1 Englishman. So,
right.
I mean, it is incredible, the talent here and the drive to go team in Scandinavia, in Sweden and Norway and Denmark. So it's tough. It's tough. You get some good teams, especially, when you show up against a team like any of the Oslo teams, just to have the advantage of having, 3 teams that qualify just from the gym itself to the CrossFit Games this year. I mean, you could literally have one team practice a certain strategy, another one, and the third another one, and you can just like compare notebooks at the end of the day. They are CrossFit Oslo by far is a big team house, I guess, and individual, of course.
I spoke to their coaches about this, and this first workout, and they said they had a team practice it. They got around 18 minutes, and then because they had 5 teams, I think at the semifinals, three of them qualified. Mm-hmm. They had another team go. They improved on that score. Another team went. They improved. Every team that went just kept improving, and then the teams that went first, they ended up trying it again. And by the time semifinals came, they knew that all 5 of their teams could be 16 minutes or faster on this workout when the first team was over 18 minutes. And so that's what you're talking about, that opportunity to have all these different people interact with a workout, take these notes, and then go apply a new strategy. And they all found success in that. But there's less and less of that as the season goes on.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
So second workout comes up. And I mean, you already talked about Mia's success as a weightlifter. Obviously, you have had some great success with weightlifting and some pretty remarkable moments throughout your career on some big stages. Were you like, do you still get excited for those big lifting opportunities in front of the big crowds, or is it kind of like I've been there, done that?
Yeah, I sure get excited, but it's almost like when you're known to be a bigger lifter or a big lifter in the space, it's almost like you don't want to carry it as pressure. You want to make sure that you're still liberated on the platform. And I do love to lift in front of a crowd. So we did have some ideas in mind. Like obviously, we were all lucky. I believe all four of us did this complex as an individual in 2019. So obviously, there is the idea in your head that you at least want to hit it or surpass it, and then what are the jumps you want to take. I don't think I was necessarily nervous. What made me nervous is how I felt after that first workout and how close to it was a lifting. I think it was. I don't think it's just me. I think I speak on everyone's behalf at semifinals that it was just way too close to it. And honestly, standing for 16, 18, however many minutes underneath the freaking berm, I can tell your T-spine is not feeling as fresh. So that was that kind of like a weird one. In general, my view on complexes is like, yeah, maybe it's cool, whatever, but at the end of the day, especially on this complex, if it would have been a 1 rep max clean and jerk on this complex, we would have gotten the same results. So I think it was very unnecessary to go through this kind of strain, both from a nervous system point of view and both from like a physical point of view.
Yeah, it's nice for me to hear you share that perspective of how big of an impact event 1 had on event 2. I spoke with the team that won event 1 at I think they won event 1, or maybe they were second place. But one of the Krieger teams, they had a guy on their team that really sent it on the bike. Like I think he did 35 calories and then 30 calories, and the cumulative amount of time to do those 65 calories was like 70 or 75 seconds in 2 different intervals. And it basically like ruined his day. Like he didn't recover from that to lift. But when I watched all the semifinals over 3 weeks, I just saw athlete after athlete, male and female, just missing the jerk at weights that I feel like they were confident they could hit.
I think it's just one is the timing, and then maybe the workout pairing. It was something that maybe wasn't put into consideration. But obviously, I don't want to criticize. I really didn't see the need to do this complex after the event that we had earlier. It wasn't the safest either in that context.
And I think those are fair. That's a fair assessment and evaluation, especially someone who's done it. Been out there on the floor and you did it. At the end of that workout, it looked like you hurt yourself. Quite frankly, like I was scared and sad. I didn't know what to think or to feel. What emotions were you feeling or going through when you walked off the floor after that event?
Yeah, I was felt like I let the team down and we have to sit out the rest of the event. I wasn't sure. It was like, I don't want to go into too many details, and then I can say now because I snatched an easy, what was it, 295 today. So everything is fine now, and I'm back at lifting and all that. So it was just a minor thing, but in the moment it felt like it was something very significant. So for us, sort of the goal changed after that event, and it was more of getting through the weekend and not necessarily, event by event, not necessarily executing to our capabilities. So that's why finishing second at the end of the competition weekend was kind of like a surprise, because I definitely wasn't in the.
Yeah, you weren't 100%. You clearly tweaked something, and it wasn't the end of the day. You already have been beat down from this worm. You had this heavy complex. The nervous system's feeling it. You tweak something in your body, and then you have to get up for a workout that requires 2.5 miles of running and 75 thrusters. How do you prepare mentally and physically for that with all those other things going on?
And a lot of ibuprofen, and I hope no one is taking notes. But there is no other way of. I'm very lucky, honestly, like seriously, with having the knowledge of and the experience of my team, and then having a pretty comprehensive assessment of various professionals at these events, that I was confident enough to go for it. And then obviously that result wasn't fantastic. I mean, we were lucky to finish on like the good side of the bubble in that event in terms of like the people that finished below us. But that wasn't an enjoyable run for me that afternoon.
Well, I think there are a lot of people that probably weren't enjoying it as much as some other runs in their life, but for you specifically,
Yeah.
it was, but that's what I had assumed, is that the mindset changed, where it's like, okay, now we just need to survive this weekend.
Yeah, 100%.
And so you finish the day, all things considered, respectable 6th place. You guys are well within a qualifying spot. 2 workouts to go. Coming up the next day, I think I did a show by myself that night, just kind of recapping the day, trying to give some attention to the team competition, what was going on. And I had this thought as well as what Lynn expressed here, that for the next workout in the morning, you could strategize it so that you could avoid overhead squats altogether, and you could just row. Was there any consideration for that?
No, because I could squat. It was fine. It was just, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, look, Brian, I know that, or I heard that Chandler's wife, Jessie, she did all 30, I believe, each round. What was it? Her? I think it was her. Wow, incredible, impressive. I don't think we had a strategy. We actually practiced this workout, and we had a strategy going into it. So we just wanted to keep it at that. Mia did do, because we were the pair going into the 90 reps, so she did do significantly more overhead squats than we practiced. But yeah, I could still overhead squat, so it was kind of fine.
And by this, by the second day there, after having the night, whatever, and taking care of it, was there an increased level of confidence that the body was going to survive through the competition?
We just took it event by event at that point.
So you have quite frankly, another great performance on the overhead squat and the row. I think,
where did we finish on that?
3rd.
Okay.
Finished 3rd. Yeah.
I love that though. Like you really were in the moment. Like you didn't even realize. But it was at this point where I was like, okay, I feel like Kristof is fine, because I hadn't talked to you. I wasn't going to bother you guys. I'm like, I feel like he's fine. I feel like they're good, and I'm confident that they're going to make the games. But my guess is that you guys didn't take that approach. You still were like, we have one more workout to do. We need to get the job done.
Yeah. And because I was injured in a split jerk, and having lunges come up, although it wasn't a significant amount of lunges, that was a bigger concern than overhead squats at that point.
And so, you do the workout, last workout of the weekend. It was your worst finish of the weekend. But do you remember the feeling crossing that finish line? And I think that you guys were in a good enough spot where you knew that the job was done at that point.
Yeah. I think we had to. Phil told us what, at that, it was almost mathematically, if you can say, impossible for us not to qualify to the games. Of course, there are possibilities, but yeah, it was more relief at that point than happiness, in terms of just being able to do all the events and doing quite well. And honestly, the biggest surprise was the 2nd place. Was quite stoked about that, considering all in all. It's just it's one of those, for me personally, I have envisioned qualifying to the games, whether it's an individual or a team athlete, so many times, and you attach these preconceived notions to it, how cathartic it will be, and I can tell you firsthand, it isn't as cathartic as anyone would imagine. But what made it very, very special is whom I made it with. That honestly, sharing the team camaraderie is, I can't speak to that enough, how special that is to accomplish a goal together. For me personally, worth much more than accomplishing a goal alone.
Right, and it's been cool to hear you talk about how important your teammates and your team are, and that there is this relationship, this chemistry between you guys. I clearly hear what Patrick's pulled up is that you also get to celebrate with Laura and Gabi.
Yeah. They should have been back at the hotel room resting, but they stayed. they watched almost all our events live, standing and stuff. So I was not happy about that, but yeah.
Well, if we flip over here to the individual side of things, they still did pretty well in their competition that weekend.
Yeah, they did all right.
But I mean, is that real though? Like you see them there afterwards, and you're obviously celebrating. They're celebrating you. Are you actually thinking to yourself, you guys should be sleeping, you should be off your feet right now?
Yeah, for sure. I told them before the workout, don't stay. Like, they were done for the day because we were last, right, teams and drills before, and I told them, do not dare staying there. And they just popped up. Boop, boop. Yeah.
But in that video of CrossFit, and you said it, it's like, my heart is full. Was it more? Is the reason why your heart full is because you finally made it to the games, or is it because of the people that you did it with, including Gabi, your family, Laura? Is that why your heart was so full? Is that what made it more meaningful to you?
Well, they haven't technically made it at that point. I was counting on them that they will, but no, it was honestly the people. Like, I cannot describe it enough, or I can't not describe it properly. It's just, there was so much, like, we feel so much love for one another, and it's that support that we didn't come together necessarily for a goal. And it's like, it doesn't matter who the other three is, as long as they're good at fitness. It was, everyone came through a lot of adversity over the years, physically, emotionally, mentally, and I think it was a beautiful moment within the season, just to think about, like, Elliot had surgery not long ago, Jamie had surgery not long ago, Mia coming back after pregnancy. I mean, there's a great individual story to everyone here, and that was just a special moment of, like, coming together, and continuing within the season.
Did any of your other family in town for semifinals this year?
Yeah, I had my parents there, my brother, who was also Lotus coach. We had Gabi's mom and sister. Phil was there, obviously, from Mia's side. Elliot's mom. Jamie's parents didn't make it out from New Zealand too. Friends, but yeah, we had a bunch of support. Obviously, a lot of people from the gym and the owners were out there, so it was a really cool crowd. We tried to go for dinner after, and well, it was possible at the end, but it was a big table
on Sunday night.
Yeah,
I got invited to something like that with training culture guys from Spain, and it was like, it wasn't one table, it was like 4 tables. You guys maybe did something similar, but that's really, I mean, that's pretty cool to have that many people and that many people that are meaningful to you there on the weekend where you achieve something that you've been dreaming of for a long time.
Yeah, it was very, very special. And then, like, honestly, like, we cannot not talk about it. Lyon semifinals was fucking electric. How many people was it like 8,000 people or something?
I think all totaled, between the athletes, the volunteers, the staff, and the fans that purchased tickets, there was around 7,500 people on site.
I mean, damn, that is crazy, isn't it? I mean, that gives me goosebumps. I mean, that is crazy. It was, honestly, if you was there watching the individual finals, male and female, wow. Like, how loud it was, how passionate everyone was. Honestly, Rogue is doing an incredible job coming to Europe, because this is the place to be. This is the place to be.
What about B.Friendly Fitness? We're there like every other month.
Yeah.
You
do. I mean, we're trying to, Brian's probably got a second home in Europe somewhere.
I have seven international trips to Europe and the Middle East this year.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But I could not agree with you more. I've been partial to European CrossFit for many years now. I went to the semifinal last year in Berlin. It was a great environment. This was a step up from that. Like that, I don't know what it was. If it was the French crowd, I mean, it was kind of a perfect storm, because in addition to having all those communities from different countries, different boxes, that, like you said, the travel is much more affordable. People can, buy these kind of city hopping
or drive.
A lot of people could drive in, and so you have all these pockets of groups of people that are rooting. But then on top of that, you had these 2 young French rookies, or would-be rookies, that had like serious potential to make it, and that just like put it over the top.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, come on, like, hats off to French Throwdown, having a community event. I believe they were saying like 1,500 total athletes, including the semifinals, competing over the weekend. I think Knoxville had something like that, but they had like 50.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. About 100. Brian didn't compete, so it would knock it down a couple. He was supposed to compete on Sunday.
Okay,
I was.
maybe more. And it's not like bringing a comparison or
Sure.
shitting on the North American.
No.
It's just like it was something like you really felt alive in there, and like CrossFit is very much alive and the heart is beating, but that heart is in Europe now.
Yeah.
And I had the chance to stand just off the field of play with Don Fall, the CrossFit CEO, for one of the events or one of the heats of one of the events, and he saw that and he got to see that firsthand. He was looking around as the athletes were being announced, and different fan sections were cheering for all these athletes. He saw the flags hanging there. He heard the drums beating. He saw the stands full, and this is a semifinal. The game sells out every year, but there's been it seems like a decreasing amount of participation in supporting some of the other big events in the U.S. Even in some cases, like the stands at Rogue are not full. There's more tickets available, and there have been. The stands in Wodapalooza this year, they tried something different with the VIP section, and those didn't sell out. And so there was kind of empty seats there. But I go to these competitions in Europe all the time, and I see people showing up and packing whatever the facility is at pretty much every one of them.
And there's a lot of these events. Like there's a lot of smaller, medium events that are sold out. People show up. I don't need to justify. It was enough if you was there. Yeah.
You've done a couple of those. Like
actually, the weekend before French Throwdown, I was in Athens for the Athens Throwdown. And during the Athens Throwdown, they were playing some commercials. And one of the commercials was an interview with you from years ago. And I think you were talking about going there in like 2015. It was one of your first big competitions, maybe with either Alex Ilebrew or Axel Lundgren.
No, it was, so that was the year they interviewed us, was last year. I competed there with Axel as a pair. As a male pair, and funny enough, in 2015, that was the first international competition that Laura and I both did. That's the first time when Laura won an international event, Athens Throwdown, 2015, I would like to believe, and it was just funny. I just that was the event.
And that's one of the reasons I wanted to go to that one, because I knew that you guys had been there. The Jukic brothers both that was their first big international event. Obviously, there's a lot
Frey goes there and dominates every year.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone win 8,000 euros more easily than she did that weekend. The weekend before semifinals.
Yeah,
she didn't even sweat.
No, but that's actually absolutely right. And this T-Bird saying, I feel like the semifinals in other regions are the CrossFit Games for them. It would be interesting to see how many non-US people are at the games this year. Yeah, and that's right. Basically, it's that there's a premium or a less supply of the highest level caliber of event. You'll get a couple top European athletes at a lot of these small competitions, but to get them all in one place to compete, it pretty much only happens at the semifinals right now.
Yeah, but you're also get more lucky of being up close and personal with them, although there is less at these smaller events. And I also believe that let's call them smaller events or throwdowns, they are built for the community. And that's why we're having different divisions. That's why they make sure we need to make sure that everyone at their given level can compete and can travel abroad. And oftentimes I believe, especially seeing in the gym, people try to combine a holiday with a competition, which is really cool. You go to Greece and then you do a weekend competition and you stay a few days and all that. So it's almost like an all-inclusive holiday in one way. Look, I'm excited. I'm extremely excited to see Rogue this year. I wouldn't say that Scotland is it's in Scotland, right? No, Ireland. No, Scotland.
Scotland.
Yeah, Aberdeen. Aberdeen. I really believe that it's gonna be amazing. It's maybe not Europe's beating heart, but it's gonna be sold out 100%.
Yeah, I mean that's there's got to be a step taken at some point. I think it's time for the games to go to Europe. The fans would go wild. I think this sentiment is starting to to grow and grow. And CrossFit Games has a little bit of like, it's kind of advantageous for them that Rogue has made this decision, because they can just kind of observe and watch and see how it is. And obviously they have a relationship with Bill and Katie, so they can talk to them afterwards about the business side of taking a big competition to Europe and what that looks like too.
I mean, I'm a bit salty about it, because I feel like Rogue has moved to Texas to be geographically a bit further away from the games. And then now all of a sudden the games go like, oh, wait a second, we're also going to come to Texas. So like Rogue has sort of no other choice. You know, they could go up north or west or east, but they made the big ballsy move. And Rogue shouldn't be the one paving the way for the CrossFit Games. It should be the freaking CrossFit Games.
Correct.
And I mean, have you guys been last year at the Madrid Open announcement? Maybe Brian has seen you there. Were you there? Gabi and Laura, BK. Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't at that one. No.
They didn't even have an open announcement this year in Europe.
Right.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that, to me, doesn't show that the CrossFit Games is coming anywhere near Europe.
No, I thought that was, thought that was, it's the first time in a while there hasn't been an international one. They did end up getting a little bit lucky, I would say, that, you know, because they had Jay and Roman to represent an international athlete at least, but it's not the same as having an event in Europe. And I'm assuming that event was popular in Europe and well attended.
Yeah, but it's not for the athletes, it's for the community. So that's where they can show up in person and show, you know, where, you know, show a bit of their culture and their own enthusiasm by being able to show up at these events. And, you know, there's so much European talent. I mean, we don't have to, because we all agree on this one. Like, they deserve to have the chance to do an open announcement, because it was fun. I seen how much Laura enjoyed it, how much Gabi enjoyed it. Laura did it obviously at Rogue the previous year, but also for Lazar, for BK, it's a cool thing to do. And it doesn't feel like it takes much. I mean, I understand, but then after so many years, it shouldn't even be a question to have one in Oceania, one in Europe, and then one in the States if we're talking about a 3-week open.
Yeah, I agree. I think that makes them, because they haven't done one in Oceania, have they, Brian? As far as I recall, and up until France this year, Oceania was the event that was selling out, that people were just going nuts for, and then the French Throwdown goes, hold my beer, and it's amazing. I mean, Brian was in France, I was in Korea. And even just doing something small in Korea, where Korea right now is the fastest growing, region in terms of affiliates, and the sport is growing so fast there. And I got to see it firsthand. But then, to see what France did, it's just like, sometimes it just feels like CrossFit's just really tone deaf. I'm not sure,
they're super sensitive to tone.
Yeah, I guess so. But it's just like, it's there. People have been, Brian, Kristof, everyone from Europe. I mean, I think John Singleton, he had a podcast, Europe is Coming. It's been going on for like 2 years now. I mean, it's not like it's a surprise. We've been talking about it forever. But
Europe has arrived a couple of years ago.
Yes,
Europe has arrived
easily.
And this is the thing. I mean, anyone I spoke to that went to Torian, it's like, it's like a music festival and a CrossFit event together, or like they speak so highly of it. And personally, I'm a bit gutted that it's a semi-final event, because I would have loved to one day compete there, either as an individual or as a team. But obviously, like, it's a weird time a little bit, and then saying that CrossFit is either tone deaf or they don't like tone is like what I feel like my personal frustration comes from. The lack of them not listening, I think, and you don't need to be a Sherlock Holmes detective to see what the community requires. And both from and I don't want to speak to the affiliation side, but coaching for many years, visiting many affiliates, I feel like there's a big divide between the affiliates and CrossFit, between the competitors and CrossFit, and the divide is getting, unfortunately, wider and wider, because CrossFit is unable or unwilling to listen to them and act on those. And what I feel like as well from from an athlete, looking at brand perspective is as well, is that what we're clearly missing is a stable relationship. When we look at Hyrox today, as much as I don't necessarily enjoy running, the reason why we see Hyrox exploding, and it's going to be interesting to see that trajectory, is that it's a very clear leadership with very clear short-terms, mid-terms, and long-term goals. And to me, like when it comes to Hyrox a little bit, I feel like Hyrox is the revamp of Spartan Race that we kind of seen explode a couple of years back, and now it's a bit, maybe it becomes something different. But the reasons why brands, why the public is so, amongst many reasons, Hyrox is amazing. But it's just like having a clear leadership that listens to what people actually need and want is paramount for a business to grow.
Well said.
A couple of people here have made some comments that they could see you in a leadership role. They could see you. They see that you have some ideas, some perspective.
You laugh, but one thing I think people will take away from watching this is like you're the way you express yourself, the ideas you have. It's it's being said, and not many people are saying that.
Look, I am frustrated because I care.
Yes.
I am passionate about CrossFit, both as a coach, both as an athlete. I make my living off of it. I have my most meaningful relationships from it. The methodology changed my life. I do believe that it has the power to change people's lives, but we were talking about yesterday with Elliot, and we're almost at like a T-junction at the moment with where the space is. And I don't know, he was asking me, what do I think is the future of CrossFit, or how we could make it more professional, if we want to make it more professional, and yesterday I tried to make sense of it all. We were actually sitting at the breakfast table and we were talking with Phil and Elliot, and Phil was saying how interesting is that most of athletes aren't actually part of the community anymore. Whereas when we started, it was like either a coach or a gym goer who actually from the community, by the way, at the end of the summer, he went and competed at the CrossFit Games. And now we're seeing the more professionalism and then sort of like a change within CrossFit. Although my personal belief is it's not CrossFit and CrossFit competition that became more professional, is the athlete's approach to competition and approach to training and conducting themselves in a more professional manner, whether it's training. And I just feel like whichever, because we don't know what the avenue CrossFit wants to take. Is it more professionalism? Is it less? Is it focusing on affiliate, focusing on the CrossFit game side? We just don't know because they don't talk about it, or at least they don't communicate it towards us. So that's where I think the frustration is coming from. And then we'll see, on the other hand, many very well-run events and excellent events like Wadapalooza, like Rogue, like Dubai, many more that are working and existing on their own. And there are smaller groups that are organizing one or this or that or over the years. But what we don't see is sort of unity amongst these events to form a circuit or whatever it may be. The fact that we're after semifinals, if we still don't know if Dubai is happening this year, that's kind of weird, isn't it? But I feel like that's the story every year.
I'm working on trying to change that, but sometimes it's slow going, different cultural things, whatever. There was a comment that came up pretty early when you came on. Wanted to just put it here for you. Can't wait for the games to see Kristof and Laura walking with the Hungary flag. So happy for you guys. Are you looking forward to that moment?
Yes.
Have you and Laura decided who's going to carry the flag?
I think it's the highest ranked individual who carries the flag, but I'll make sure that I'll snatch it up for a second or something. You know what? I don't get excited about things like this anymore because who knows? There are budget cuts at the games and there are no flags this year. So we'll see if there's going to be even a flag or not. Yeah.
Well,
But
just bring your own flag.
You're bringing a flag. You're gonna get a picture with the two of you together there. It's gonna be cool.
It's gonna be special. Yeah.
I have no idea what the context of this comment was, but Lynn, I remember that you might have been a good in the snow, and I think your sister is too.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I'm actually I'm a ski instructor by trade. That's what I studied after high school. So we spend a lot of time on snow, skied a lot. Haven't done it in a couple of years because it's the open and all that. But yeah, skiing is fun.
And you prefer skiing to snowboarding?
I do.
But I think Laura likes to snowboard.
Laura's a board. Yeah, she's a rider. She's a snowboarder. Are you a better skier than she is a snowboarder?
Yes.
Oh, because she's pretty good. I've watched her. She's pretty,
Laura's a good snowboarder, but easy to look good on a snowboard without knowing much.
It is.
But Laura is very good. That's not what I meant.
True.
Then we had this comment from Derek a while ago. Kristof's humility, commitment to Lori, Gabi, and his team is amazing. This qualification is a long time coming and so well deserved. So clearly got some people listening today that know a little bit about you and I can appreciate, the journey. Outside of the fact that you've qualified from the games, this season, you've had this, I guess it's been 10 years since that competition in Athens in 2015. On the as like a big picture approach as a competitor over a decade of competing, what would you say to somebody if they were considering signing up for a CrossFit competition, no matter how big or small it was?
In what regard?
Like if someone was like, hey, I do CrossFit in my gym. I've been thinking about signing up for a local competition, or I've been thinking about traveling to a competition.
Yeah, I guess have fun would be the generic answer, but I would actually say don't take yourself and the event itself too seriously. Try to take as much away from it as possible, and don't be afraid to make mistakes because that's how you learn.
Wow.
There's and on that front, I'm going to ask you about this. I didn't know if I would ask you about this today or not, but back in Dubai, that was the biggest individual competition you'd done in a while. And you had this weird weightlifting event, very strange format, 1 minute, one weight. And you made a decision to kind of go for it that day, to take a risk.
Yeah.
And it didn't go your way.
I mean, look, taking a risk is sexy as long as you make it, right? I didn't make it. I mean, this is something that you rarely consider when you're taking a risk. What happens when or I haven't, maybe, or it's like that. I believe if I would have made a clean and jerk, I would have been either joined first or first in the event. Maybe joined first. So I would have had 100 points or whatever was the point system next to your name. Without that, I took last. So it was like one of those where I think you got to take risks sometimes. And I decided to take that day. It didn't pan out. It is what it is.
And but you live with it. Like you made the decision, you went for it. And, at this point in your career, are you still able to be like, I stand by my decision, even though it didn't go my way this day?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
No.
You said so. Are you in Sweden now for the remainder of the summer? You're like up until you get over here.
Yeah.
And how early will you guys come?
Not too early. Maybe 2 weeks before.
Straight to Texas, or will you stop in Virginia?
Yeah.
No, fortunately, no. Virginia is a bit out of the way, isn't it? So, yeah, would have been awesome, but it's just not in the cards this year. Hopefully, be back as soon as, but we're going straight to Texas.
And outside of the competition world, we kind of referenced it in the beginning of the podcast, but you guys have had some changes in your life this year. you've moved back. Well, you had moved to, I think you guys had moved to Poland, and then now you've moved to Hungary.
Yeah.
Do you envision that being a little bit more permanent than the year in Poland was?
I hope so. I think so. Obviously, I don't want to speak for Gabby, but after living for so many years abroad, I felt a bit like home was calling me. And I think Laura was calling Gabby. So it worked out well.
That
Or
worked
vice
out to you
versa.
better. That
Yeah.
worked out for you.
Yeah, so
didn't,
we're very happy. Yeah.
You know, I did not want to spend most of this conversation talking about Laura and Gabby. Obviously, they're incredibly important people to your life. But are there times when you've been in the gym with them and they've just been like doing their thing and you're like, it's like I'm not even here?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like obviously it makes me very, very happy that my girlfriend and my sister aren't just getting along, but good friends. And then obviously their training dynamic and all that is incredible to see them. I think semifinal showed a little glimpse of how that dynamic it is, how the dynamic works, and I can tell you firsthand there is nothing fake about it. Like this is how they
Mhm.
are.
Yeah.
They give each other props, they give each other crap, they love each other, they support one another. Like there's wholehearted support. That obviously once 3-2-1 goes, they want to kill one another on the competition floor. But yeah, they truly care about one another. So it's really cool.
I had a chance to talk to Laura very briefly at Rogue, and she mentioned one of the things I asked her was like, what do you plan on doing with the money? And she goes, I want to open up an affiliate. And then I doing some research, found out she was an L2. Is that something that you share with her? That is that kind of what you want to do? You talk about team and community and how much family means to you. Is that something that both you, Laura, even Gabby, long to do? Is maybe open up your own gym where you can foster your own family or community?
Since day one, the goal was never to go to the CrossFit Games. The goal was to
Oh.
open a CrossFit affiliate, but
That's awesome.
we just met obstacles along the way, and life happened, I guess. So hopefully we're getting closer to that point. Hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah.
In terms of the accessibility to CrossFit in Hungary, is that in a good place right now? Like, are people interested in CrossFit there, or is it still challenging?
It's a difficult one, right? Because we're talking about a country that has 10 million people and almost 3 million of it lives in Budapest. And maybe I'm getting this very wrong, but I believe there's maybe 11, around 10, 11 affiliates, actual CrossFit affiliates in Hungary, which isn't a lot. And most of that is at least 50% is in Budapest. So there's obviously interest for it and space for it. I do believe in general fitness and well-being is growing within our country as well as everywhere else around the world. So there is obviously more space. Just as in almost all major cities around the world, there is space for more CrossFit affiliates. Everywhere there is. So I think the interest is growing. In terms of if you would project that to open participation, that isn't necessarily a correct measurement for that, but maybe that is true not just to Hungary but to other countries as well.
This next question I'm going to ask you is, it's definitely different country to country. Sometimes it's a cultural thing, but has Laura becoming the games champion impacted fitness or health in Hungary at all, in like a big, like a community or a population level?
I think the easy answer is no. But I don't know the answer. Yeah, I think CrossFit is just not widely known enough in Hungary for her to be a driving force in, let's say, parents of taking this as motivation to bring their kids to a CrossFit affiliate, if that's what you're referring to, or other individuals. It certainly made a noise, and it has been recognized. But in terms of does it drive more people to an affiliate, at least my feeling is not necessarily.
It's you know, I had no idea what the answer to that would be. I watch and I ask people about this because I've seen even not like once again, the Jukic brothers are a good example. They're from Serbia. It's a similar part of Europe. And there's, Lazar's, he hasn't won the CrossFit Games, but he's had some success there. He's won the semifinals, many years. And now like a little bit later in his career, he's thinking about ways that he can give back to his country through the platform that he's built. And it sounds like to some extent you guys have always had that in your mind, but maybe the opportunity is closer than it's been before.
Yeah, I think an affiliate is definitely a very quantifiable way of giving back to the community. I do believe that Laura does give back a lot to the community in one way or another. There's a lot of proactive ways that she's doing, but she isn't promoting online, that she does in terms of, I don't want to give too much away of that, because obviously she doesn't want to promote that, but she does a lot in that regard to impact the close community around her and even the broader one. But definitely a CrossFit gym is the way to do it on a big scale, but it's macro scale.
I mean, it seems like there's kind of a precedence for that. You look at someone like Rich Froning, who he took his success and opened up a gym, and now people know what mayhem is. You look at someone like Kristen Holta, what she's done for Oslo, Annie for Reykjavik. There are some examples out there. I just think it's just a matter of just, I guess, marketing. I guess pretty much marketing. Comes down.
Yeah, maybe, but you also gotta look at locally.
Sure.
In terms of like country and city and what the demography is in regards of like fitness and interest.
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, Kristof, thank you for making the time for this, man. I mean, I have good memories of the times that we've been able to sit down and have a coffee or share a meal. It's been a while, like I said at the start of the show, but I think that this was a good balance of people getting to maybe see the depth of experience you have in the sport, but also you're very, I think your sister is probably like this too. You guys are very cerebral. You're looking at things, you're observing. And like you said a while ago, you're selective with when and what you choose to say. I think that she's taken a big step forward in terms of having some really powerful statements communicated on public platforms in the last 12 to 18 months when she's had an opportunity. And it's clear that, through the expression of the things that you give thoughtful consideration to a lot of the things that you observe. And it's meaningful to me that you've taken the time to share some of that with us today.
I appreciate you guys having me. It's been a blast, and knowing you guys for many years as well. And it's always a pleasure to see you both. Obviously, it's a bit more tense and difficult in competition settings, so I appreciate the opportunity to just sit down in a relaxed setting.
And I'm definitely jealous of the chats over breakfast that you and Elliot and Phil will be having in the coming weeks, because those are three very good minds, and I'm sure that you guys have some pretty riveting conversations.
I appreciate that. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. All right, Kristof, good luck with everything this summer, man. Congratulations on the achievement, and we'll see you in Texas.
Thank you. Bye, both of you.
See you. Kristof Horvath, taking time out of his games preparation to spend an hour and a half with us there. And like I said to him, I think a great depth of experience in the space, and really, a good thinker just in general. So his perspectives are appreciated. And I hope that you guys enjoyed getting to learn from him a little bit. Since Kristof won't say it, I will. Laura and Kristof went to a box and we're just talking to people there. And it was so cool. That does not surprise me at all, knowing them.
No. I mean, talking to people at Krypton, whenever Laura would come in for her training camps, they said that she just integrates in that community so well. And she's her, and I mean, just everyone that she brings there, it's almost like they have to be a part of the community. And I know Laura and Kristof, they've made like such great friends there. And if we didn't get a chance to talk to it, but he's alluded to it many times. It's like they have a very small circle, but those people in that circle are people that they trust and love. And I don't think Kristof would have won team if it wasn't for Jamie and Elliot being a part of that signal, that circle, and because Laura and Gabi think the world of those two. The same with Mia and Phil. So it's just really cool to get his perspective on things. He's obviously he's so everything he does is well thought of. It's deliberate, and you can tell he has a lot of things that on his mind that he would say, but it's just not the time to say it, or he just doesn't feel like saying it right now. But he's obviously a man of many thoughts and many opinions.
Ready for
and when you have
a little sage saying for you today, PC? This is apropos to what you said about Kristof. If you have something to say and it's not truthful or helpful, don't say it.
Yeah.
If it's truthful and helpful, don't say it. I'm sorry. If it's truthful but not helpful, don't say it.
Yeah.
If it's helpful but not truthful, don't say it. If it's both truthful and helpful, wait for the right time. And if people were to live their life by that, I think we'd have a lot more peaceful interactions.
friendly
and a lot more quiet.
Yeah.
Oh man, that should definitely apply to the comment sections of anything.
Yeah. Well, our comment section is usually just awesome. Again, it's
just
like
the live comments is a little different, but like when you watch something and then some people write some comments below, and I'm just like, I think if you wrote that, walked away for 1 minute, came back and read it, you would probably think to yourself, I don't need to hit enter and actually post this comment right now.
I'm like that with the emails.
Yeah, it's super wise to do. I've written out entire emails and then just put them aside. I'll write them in like a Word document or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll come back the next day and I'll look at it and I'll be like, I'm so glad I didn't send that. And sometimes it's not even the message; it's just the word,
the tone, and the word. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you do that with me a lot. You'll call me and like, hey, this is what I have to do, and what do you think? And ask. Sometimes you won't read the email to me, but you'll just like talk about your thoughts, and I'm like, no, let's not do that. But I mean, my drafts, and if you look at my drafts of my email, my Gmail, there's so many drafts in there of emails that I've never sent, and there is there. I almost use it as kind of like a journal entry. It's like, should I delete them? Probably, but at the same time, it's cool to kind of look back like, man, I was really fucked up that day. But no, that was really cool. I'm glad Kristof came out. Again, we've known him for a while. It's so funny because I met him in China as well. It's like, I'll go back
that
to
trip it. That trip was a good trip for you.
It was. It changed the trajectory of my life in so many ways. And I have no one but to thank, but Max, Carrie, from and then also Ro and Tommy Marquez, because and Kristen Chandler too. But if it weren't for those 5 people, I mean.
We thought that Jake Chapman was an OG because he happened to see Bjork Odin's daughter do some lifting in 2014.
Yeah,
but he's actually so OG that he's met Elvis Presley.
Great, Jake. Man. Yeah.
So that'll do it for us for Monday.
Mm-hmm.
We have a full week this week. PC put up a little teaser of some of the schedule, but BKG will be on here tomorrow. It's been a long time since I've done a podcast. The last time I did a podcast with him was with Savan. BKG was at like a beach somewhere. He did it out of his car. He was super relaxed. It was super fun. So I had no idea where he'll be calling in from. Obviously, he's preparing for the games for the 11th consecutive year. Talk about a unique perspective. We'll talk to him about CrossFit. We'll talk to him about some not CrossFit stuff. Patrick and BKG have a really storied relationship as well.
We'll call it storied.
Some stories.
Oh, we do have some stories. We do have some
relationship. And then I'm probably butcher his last name, but Dylan Nevesic, I think, from the Fittest of South Carolina, will be coming on at the end of that one to preview the first of 4 stops that we have on the tour this summer. So we have 4 competitions. We're covering all of them on B.Friendly Fitness before the CrossFit Games.
Yep. The summer tour.
my mind, I'm not going to lie, the past 24 hours, I've been really like dialing in on a lot of the games stuff and games athletes just with some creativity ideas. But that's a long ways out. There's plenty of time for that. There's still some high level competition going on. So Dylan will come on and give us a little history of Fittest of South Carolina at the end of BKG tomorrow. And then we got Victor Hoffer and Yellow Hosted to round out the day. So we're going to get a really good group of European athletes, all kind of at different points in their career, and kind of over the next 3 days. So that's what's coming up. A lot of what we do this year in terms of the podcast is possible because of HGR CBD. If you have not checked those guys out, go give them a follow, check them out, give them a try. The Relieve stick or the balm that you can apply, the greens, something I've been having every morning when I've been home. It's a go-to for Taylor. I see him at the gym with it. I know he uses it at night. It's been cool that he's picked up on the train there. And obviously you guys have seen the success he's had. So you guys are training hard, make sure you recover well, and HGR CBD can go a long way for that. PC, you got anything else today?
Yeah, I know the last couple of weeks have been like really European, Oceania focused, but next week, bringing it back to America, as we do our reps ahead preview. So we bringing on a bunch of athletes on next week. I'm working on the scheduling for that, but we do have a free day there, and I'm trying to think, man, it'd be weird not to have a European. So I think Wednesday's a free day, so maybe you might sneak in another guest or something. But
my vote's for Linda Kieschman if we can get her.
Ooh, I do like Linda Kieschman. That would be a good one. All right, so that sounds good. But no, thanks to everyone in the chat. Thanks for everyone for being awesome. Try to stay cool out there. I know it's hot in everywhere but Sweden. But I felt really jealous because that's my type of weather. I'm wearing a hoodie only because
the weather up there right now is actually great weather. Especially he said he likes it cool. I'm sure he's enjoying it now. But 6 months ago, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like 98 degrees right now outside, and I'm wearing a hoodie only because I keep it 62 degrees in my apartment or my place. So, but just stay warm out there. Watch out for people. If you're working out in the gym, or stay warm, stay cool. If you're in the gym, drink plenty of water. I got a running workout today. I know I'm going to be overhydrated, which is a good thing for me. So, but thank everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow with BKG, and as always, be friendly, our friends.